off, son. Okay, it looks like we're live.
It's going to stall, so give me a second.
We will give it the 5-second rule.
We're good.
We're good?
Check the volume.
Okay, yeah, check the volume.
Check the volume.
Pump up the jam, pump it up. Okay, cool.
Okay. Yeah, that's weird. I don't like that. Okay. Dan, introduce the podcast this morning.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Hang on. How demanding.
Please.
She's been a little bit,
know.
a little bit.
I have. Sorry.
Assertive.
Thanks.
It's
You
getting
know what?
late into the month.
Fine. You know what?
Sure is.
Welcome to Coaching Over Coffee this morning on this beautiful Saturday in Queensbury, New York. From right to left, you have Coach Ryan, you have the bossy Coach KC, and you have myself, who's getting yelled at already at 6 o'clock this morning, Coach Dan. We have a very interesting topic today that the coaches discussed would be very helpful for not just anyone who's participating in our recent 6-week challenge, but also just anyone in general who is on a fitness journey or maybe not even on a fitness journey. The episode today is the number on the scale. Now, I know that this is going to sound like a weird question right off the rip, but I want to ask it. When you hear people talk about stepping on the scale, what is their facial expression or body already like when they're talking about it? Because we've seen it 1,000 times.
I think everybody's different.
Yeah.
I think everybody has a different reaction to it. Some people are more emotional. Some people become super frustrated, fixated, obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I don't use the word obsessed as a bad thing, but I think if it becomes this only obsessional focus spot that we just think about nonstop, then I think it becomes a bad thing.
Agreed. I think people are frustrated before they even step on the scale, like 90% of the time in my experience here so far. So they already have it made up in their mind that whatever they see on the scale, they're not going to like. And then when they step on the scale, usually that's the case. So
I have some stats that I want to read, though, prefacing the podcast.
okay.
As of 2022, all 50 states have an obesity rate of over 20%.
Wow.
Currently, 17 states have an obesity rate over 35%. That's just obesity. The latest data indicates that 39.6% of United States adults are obese. Another 31% are overweight, and 7% are severely obese. The obesity prevalence was 39.8 among adults aged 20 to 39, 44.3 among adults aged 40 to 59, and 41.5% among adults aged 60 or older. What percentage of the United States is obese? Nearly 1 out of 3 adults are overweight.
That's sad.
What are those numbers as a whole? When you read them and you hear them, what do they mean to you guys?
Well,
I
I
get
think.
triggered.
Well, I think about this is out of not even 300 million people, because there's that many Americans, like 330 million, but that's not including kids and everything. It's like that is a unbelievable number, and the first thing I think of is the strain on them day to day. Like that's where my mind goes. It's like you're unable to be your best self in a health fashion, let alone any other facet of your life.
Why?
Well, I mean, you have to think about the strain that being overweight does have on your body. I mean, you can be in chronic pain due to it. You also can have like everything from diabetes. You can have prediabetes. You can have all of these other health factors, and not just that, but this is one that I think about. It's like, if you have children, you want to be around for your kids. It's like the longer that goes on and the more choices that you make that are unhealthy, the less time you have with your kids, or as you mentioned, with the older population, your grandkids. Like,
Why do you think? But why do you think our population is so overweight? Casey, you just dominated the mic for a little bit.
Well, I tend to think about what it's like in other countries when I hear our numbers, because it's not like that elsewhere. And so it's a nationwide problem, not a worldwide problem. And I think it stems from everything that we see and read and hear, and also the ingredients that are put into our food, because
Sure.
even like healthy food is not healthy anymore. You look at strawberries in the middle of winter and they're this big and red. And if you go strawberry picking at a real field, they don't look like that.
Sure.
They're like this big.
But like what he said, like everybody wants to be around for their kids. I think that's the common thing that we always hear. But why don't they want to be around for themselves?
Self-esteem.
But why don't we think about that? You know, I think it's the most selfless thing to do. I don't have kids. I have dogs. You have kids, but kid, you want to be around for them. That's the most selfless thing. So that way, like, that's your responsibility. But I don't think people prioritize themselves as much. I don't think they want.
Yeah.
I don't think they do that. And I think we're so, like you said, we run around. We're so money driven.
Yep.
Because we have to make so much money to afford the life to have a family.
Yes. Yep.
You know, to have a house, to have a car, and have everything in life that we need. I'll go air quotes need. But why don't we make ourselves a priority? Half-hour walk is 2% of your day.
Does it go back to that thing that we've always talked about, where when you do prioritize yourself, others can can ping you as selfish? Do you think that might be at least a fact? I mean, I know it sounds like a lame cop-out, but it could be a factor for some people where they don't want to come across as that. Or maybe it's the slippery slope where it happened a little bit at a time, and now they don't know how to course correct on their own.
What do you think about the fact that, like, who gives a shit what anybody else thinks about you?
Easier said than done.
I know we're so apt to say, like, to our best friend, hey, you need to make yourself a priority. Like, if we read everybody's I will statements, I want to be the best version of me. But what does that version even look like?
Yeah.
How do we even know what that's going to be? I don't even know what the hell. I think Lowe said it to me. He's like, when did you find yourself? And I was like, bro, I think I'm still looking. I'm in this rabbit hole, and I keep going down each hole. One was a gopher hole. One was a mole hole. One was a rabbit hole. I still don't know who the fuck I am. But I think, like, why don't we prioritize ourselves? And it kind of going back off on a tangent. We're not talking about the scale, but I think there's so many underlying roots to this problem that we don't identify before the scale becomes the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are those issues?
Okay, so you could look at it as, or if you want to peel back all the onion layers, could be not dealing with past traumas or past experiences.
Yeah.
You know, you could look at it as being, I will look at it from an angle that I wanted to look at it. It's like body dysmorphia. You don't know you have body dysmorphia. What was the term you said before pod?
Body checking.
Thank you. Explain to people what body checking is.
It's like every time you walk past a mirror, you stop and analyze yourself. Or if you by yourself, you like lift your shirt up and just look at all the things you don't like about yourself.
But it's always in a negative sense.
Yes,
It's
always.
not, because I think sometimes we see our college athletes going over to the mirror and they're always flexing and everything.
They don't count.
Yeah.
No, well, in 10 or 15 years, when their body goes through changes,
Sure.
that is going to be in the back of their mind where it's like, I used to look like this.
Comparison mode now,
Exactly.
too.
And it's like, I think it might start off with like early childhood issues, and then it just stems where you don't become comfortable in your own skin. And then depending on where your life goes, you could either be very self-aware and like take care of it in therapy or anything like that, or by making healthier choices, or you just dogpile it all on until you get to a point where you even think of the word scale and you're just freeze up in cold sweats and all that other stuff.
What are other reasons?
Well, to piggyback off of what you said, like we talk about wanting to set a good example for our kids, but I also think that there's a spectrum, and it's either like one of, I guess, three ways, because there are parents that don't set the right example, and maybe they have no physical activity and they eat really poorly, and so then their child grows up with those same habits. Or opposite end, they grow up watching a mom or a dad that does weigh themselves 4 times a day or is constantly pointing out the negative things about themselves, when their kid is looking at them being like, well, you're smaller than I am. You know what I mean? So if you say these things about yourself, then what am I? Or like restricting foods, things like that. Or you have like that happy medium of the child that is brought up to just be comfortable in their own skin. So I think that has a lot to do with it as you grow up and get older. I think what you see and what's modeled for you is super important.
What about failure? What about people that have always been dieting and conscious about it and making the effort? Because I think there's a lot of people that do go out there, especially this time of year, New Year's resolutions. What about people that, you know, go on these crash diets? They do chicken soup diet or whatever something. They're going to go walk, 50,000 steps a day, something drastic. Because I think we don't posture ourselves to have time-sensitive goals. I don't want to say
Yeah.
realistic. I think I want to lose 20 pounds this month. Okay, that might not be realistic for you, but we want to. That's the goal. So I have to put all the effort into it. So I have to do something drastic. I have to work out 6 days a week. I have to do this crash diet. I can't eat this. I can't eat that. But then what happens when they binge on themselves, they restrict themselves.
Yeah.
And then they binge and they restrict. But how come failure plays a huge role? I've done it before. It didn't work. When I do it again, I am expecting, like you guys said before, expecting that it's not going to work. So they're scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a fear too, is like you said, they're already posturing themselves not to have success when they step on the scale.
Yeah.
They're going to step on it and automatically, no matter what the number is, they're not going to be happy because it's not the number that they want to be.
And that's the other thing is I think we get obsessed with a number. It's
a number.
Even like I've caught myself having to pull myself back because you say, like, at least in my mind, I want to be this in order to do this. It's like, well, what if you weren't that, but you could still achieve that same thing? And I think that a lot of people become wrapped around the axle about what you've referred to in the past as the perfect number. If I lose X, I will be completely happy.
Yeah.
But did you unpack all that past shit that made it this way? Like, we talk about athletes and everything. One of the highest demographics of athletes that have eating disorders and body dysmorphia are wrestlers. They're taught to cut weight. They're taught, and whether it's implied or not, they're taught to cut weight. They're taught to starve themselves, or they're taught the other way. They're taught to binge.
Yep.
And I need you 4 pounds heavier by Saturday. Well, it's Tuesday. That's fucking impossible.
Yep.
I think about that too, and I always do that with all my consultations. I'll say like, hey, what's your goal? I want to lose 15 pounds. Okay, so I want to be, I don't know, let's say 155. Okay, what happens if you're 153? Would you be happy and you look good and you felt good? Yeah. What happens if you're 158 and you look good and you felt good? Would you be happy? Yeah. So it's not the number.
Yep.
And I think sometimes, and I was talking about this with somebody the other day, what happens when we have these super big goals, like running a marathon or being a certain number? What's the emotion once you get to that?
You don't really know, but I feel like you accomplish it and then you are kind of like, oh, okay, like
That's
what?
it.
Yeah.
It's that like split second. You stepped on the scale, you hit your goal weight, then what happens?
Now what? Yeah.
Now what? I'm still not happy.
Yep.
Right? And I think like, okay, I trained 17 months for a marathon. I don't give a shit, whatever it was. Okay, I crossed the finish line. What was the emotion?
Was there any?
I didn't have any. It wasn't like this, oh my God, come to Jesus moment where the lights were shining down. I was super warm. I was super happy. I was super proud. It wasn't like that.
I think it was thank God this shit's over.
Well, yeah.
There's that. But, and to piggyback off of that, you have to peel back yourself in order to figure out where the problem is. And I think you talk about people being afraid to fail. I think people are afraid to look inward.
Or I think they're afraid to be successful too.
Actually, that's like a 3-pronged problem right there, because it's like you're too afraid to fail, you're afraid to succeed, and you're afraid to look inward to figure out where the problem
Do you think they're
is.
afraid to succeed or they're afraid to do what it takes to succeed?
I like that volley, but I also think they're afraid to go through the process, like you said, to be successful, but they've never been successful in some capacity, so they don't know what that feeling is going to be like.
And do you think it scares the shit out of them that they might end up being a different person, and that person is someone either A, they're not going to like, or everyone around them is not going to like? Because we have all at this table done something so impossible to others that they look at us weird when we're fucking in the middle of it.
But I also think that once they get to that space, I think that they know in the back of their head that nothing in their life is really going to change. Hey, I just dropped 40 pounds. Yeah, I'm healthier, but am I happier?
Yeah, that goes back to joy versus happiness.
Yeah. I mean, they're completely different, but I feel like, how do we get them to look at the scale and have a healthy relationship with it? Why do we use the scale? Peel that back first and foremost. As a coach's perspective, why do we have people weigh themselves?
I think we use it as an accountability purpose.
Sure.
I use it to show them where they're currently at, because people are wrapped around the axle about numbers and being able to do X. Whether it's I can do X amount of reps of this weight or I'm currently at this weight. my doctor says this is a healthy weight. It's like, okay, so they want to see something tangible. I believe that I use it more as a tangible thing to guide you on what you want to do. And like you said, sometimes it is hitting that magic number because of a surgery or some other stuff like that. Sometimes it's just, I don't want to say the carrot on the stick, but it's a carrot on a stick for them to motivate themselves to get better habits in order to start peeling back the onion layer of what's really going on.
I think for me, it's the accountability piece, but I also use it to guide them weekly because I don't think the number is the end all be all goal.
Agreed.
So like, hey, my pants don't fit. I have to keep pulling them up, but you only lost 4 pounds last week or the last 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
Your body composition's changing. Isn't that what you want? Isn't that what everybody comes in and says they want? What do they say? I want to be toned. I want to be fit. I want to be healthy. But how do you measure those three? How do we measure those three as coaches? I can't measure your fit because your fit and my fit are different as everybody else's.
Yep.
But your fit when you first start and 6 weeks after are completely different too.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen a client, maybe they've only lost 10 pounds in 2 or 3 months, but their fitness has increased, but they don't care about that.
No.
Majority of them don't really give two shits about that. They want to look good, feel good.
Yep.
It's a vanity thing. We all feel it, right? And I think society, from a female's perspective, puts a lot more pressure on you guys than us.
Yeah.
But it's still there for us
Yes,
as
it
well.
is.
Will you talk about it from a female's perspective?
Yes, I will. I mean, it's a lot of pressure, I think. I think we all experience the pressure, but for some reason we focus more inward on like females and how they feel when they step on a scale or comparison with other females on social media. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist for guys either.
Sure.
But I do think that I keep going back to social media because we've talked about this before, but it's more than just like Instagram and Facebook because this has been around for longer than that. When I was a kid, it was magazine covers in the grocery store. Like I would be at Hannaford with my mom and look over and Britney Spears is 18 years old with 0% body fat. And to me as a kid, I was too young. It didn't register for me. But for kids that were probably my age then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your generation, right? She was a big one.
Yeah. She still is in my heart.
Yes, I know.
It's okay.
That we do know.
Knives or scissors, doesn't matter.
But I don't know. There's a lot of societal pressure on women to look and feel a certain way. And also it changes by generation or decades. Like when I was a kid, it was to be as tiny and skinny as possible to the point where women had no features. And then it became this slim, thick hourglass figure. Now I feel like we're going in a direction because of social media where it is more about how you feel versus what you look like. And I think we're all becoming a little bit more aware that social media is having a negative impact on us. But I don't know, it's hard to stray away from all of that.
Does it promote overall health though?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I think like we can embrace a certain body type, but does that mean that you're healthy? You are the shape that you are. Sure, love the skin that you're in. I get it. That's mental, but the physical side still is a role.
Yeah.
Like there's still causes of concern for overall health if you are overweight, right?
Yeah.
There are so many causes.
Oh yeah.
But I can't jump aboard that because we are not fixing the overall health epidemic that we are all going through and living through in the current present days.
Yeah.
I mean, in every generation, every era has a body type, right? Like back in the 90s, it was the heroin chic. It was you had to be this thin.
Sure.
I looked at it back then and was like, wow, too skinny. But then think about the ramifications of that, where you're starving yourself and you're going into organ failure in order to have this body type. You mentioned now it's like that stronger, more fit body style for people. But the thing is it's like there's overtraining too. It's like you have that to worry about. And it's like young people and even older people, I'll just say that, like they have an unrealistic expectation of what it takes to get to that body type of the person on the cover.
It is unrealistic.
It is absolutely unrealistic. You have Instagram models who are showing you a a 10-second reel of this exercise, but what they don't show you is maybe the 6 or 7 years prior. You know, you look at Hugh Jackman, who's like 56 years old and gassed to the gills, looking jacked. It's like you got to think all the time of training and eating and doing that. Your average person doesn't have that, and I think that also plays a part in the failure too, because
Also, the needles that they put.
Oh, I'm not going to argue that at all. Sure. Like, I'm not going to argue the HGH at all. But you have to think about your average person, we say the person on the couch or like the person scrolling through their phone who sees that, and it almost is failure from the get-go, because in the back of their mind, they'll never be able to achieve that kind of a goal.
Sure.
Yeah. Well,
and they
I
shouldn't
think
be trying to.
What about like the posed? We've talked about it before, the posed versus unposed that
Oh,
these
yeah.
women put on social media, where they're wearing like high-waisted leggings and it looks like they have a six-pack, and then they pull the high-waisted leggings down and they look like a normal person underneath. You know, like it's very deceiving what you see on social media.
Good lighting can make someone look even better.
Yeah.
What's the conversation with somebody that has a negative reaction to a number on the scale? What do you guys say?
I'm used to hearing that.
Sure.
I feel like I hear it very often. I always go back to what we said before of like body composition and well, how do your clothes feel? Because I hear it all the time. Like, oh well, I had to get all new leggings because they keep falling down. They don't fit anymore. But the number on the scale doesn't change. I'm like, well, that's the first step.
Sure.
Because you're losing inches. Clearly, if your clothes don't fit anymore. I only use the scale as a tool if someone specifically tells me that weight loss is their goal. Because I have a lot of female and male clients that don't necessarily need to lose weight, but I know that they weigh themselves, and I'll try to preach to them. Like, I don't weigh myself. I think I stepped on the InBody when we first got it just for fun, and that was the last time I weighed myself, and that was in September.
Did you have an emotion that went with a number?
I didn't. No.
Okay, good.
I
Good for
used
you.
to, though. When
Yeah.
I was probably up until maybe a year and a half ago, I weighed myself like every single day. And for what reason? I mean, they're at the beginning and the end of the day. And that's another factor, is your weight fluctuates. People are like, oh my God, I gained 4 pounds today. I'm like, no, you didn't. You drank water and you ate food. Like,
yeah.
That's what happens.
I always will ask them, name 5 characteristics about yourself that you enjoy.
It's a hard
And
question to
but
answer.
nobody wants to answer those things. So like, hey, are you a good parent? Yes. Hey, do you work hard at your job? Yes. Hey, are you empathetic? Are you a good friend? Are you a good spouse? Yes. Does the number on the scale tell you that? No, right?
No.
So it doesn't tell you what kind of person that you are. It just gives you a metric of a number, and our identity is based around that number. Our day will then be that much worse because we will think about ourselves in a negative fashion because the number either went up or down. We'll be jacked up if it went down 3 pounds this week,
Oh, yeah.
but we're going to be looking like Eeyore when Eeyore's a Winnie the Pooh
I
character.
know.
I didn't know. Sorry.
Actually, my favorite show.
Okay. But the thing is like it plays a huge emotional role in your day
Yeah.
based on body composition and what you ate the night before.
And I guess it goes back to, why do we let it get under our skin? Like,
We're not calloused. It's not
It's
the
a
goal.
mindset,
Yeah,
too.
it's not the goal.
Can't
our goal is we want to lose weight,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And that's the only thing we can be fixated on. But you look at like ultimate fulfillment, you're not going to be fulfilled when you hit that number. So why the fuck do we pay attention to it?
I think we should focus more on exercising to be healthy and to feel better rather than to look a certain way.
or a physical goal that can be obtained. Like, I think of clients who have a specific thing in mind, whether it's, I want to run a marathon, I want to run a Spartan, I want to do this, I want to have this physical thing in mind, versus a number on a scale, because I think that that's something tangible. Like, I know it sounds weird. It's like when you graduate college, you get a piece of paper. They can't take that shit away from you. Well, if you finish a marathon or you do that, you can put that on the wall. You can't have that taken away unless you jumped in a car and cheated.
But also think about what those events do to your brain, though. Like, think about the positive impacts that those events have. But why can't it just be for healthy habits and routines and just being disciplined? This is a part of my day. This is part of my lifestyle. This is part of like who I am. It's my identity. Hey, I'm going to go to work, but after work, I know I'm going to go to the gym 4 days a week. And it doesn't have to be monumental. It doesn't have to be like a 7-day-a-week thing.
Yeah.
As long as if it's just 2 or 3.
Yeah.
It's still you're building towards healthy habits. I don't think people as a whole, as a society, we don't think that like it's good enough. It's better than nothing.
Yeah.
It's better
Yeah.
than going to sit on the couch.
Yeah.
Go take your dogs for a 30-minute walk. Just move your body. What do they say? Movement's medicine.
Yeah.
You know, it'll cure a lot of shit in here, but a lot of shit here too.
And it also grows your brain, like the studies that are being done right now, where, this week I've been talking to everyone about the, Jen is going to love hearing this, the anterior mid circulate cortex. We each have one on the side of our head. Essentially, when we do something we don't want to do that we find hard, it grows. It grows our brain. But also what it does is it also promotes long-term memory gain, and it's got all these positives. But it only works, it only grows if you do shit that is difficult. Like, if you love running, it's not going to grow. But if you don't like, weightlifting or whatnot, but you go and do it anyway, you're promoting good health for your brain, which is longevity. And in the long run, you're moving your body, you're getting your brain right. You've got a longer chance of living healthier, both mentally and physically. And I think that that's the other thing that the mental part of the scale, but also the mental part of working out, the health benefits are not just in your physical, but it's your mental. And I think that we have a depression problem in this country. I think obesity, you rattled off all those numbers. Obesity is directly linked with mental health. I will argue that till the day I die. You don't have these kids who are overweight and that doesn't fuck with them. Being a fat kid growing up, it sucked. You then have this going into adulthood. I'm sorry if that word offended anybody, but I lived it. But then you also have these people going into adulthood that don't feel good about themselves. It just ruins their mental health, so where they're willing to go below status quo to deal with life. They're willing to accept plates of shit. And I think that that's one of the hardest parts of this too.
Yeah.
Sorry to go all angry on that
That's
one,
okay.
but it just...
Now it's quiet.
How do you, or what are your opinions on navigating obesity in children? Because, I mean, as someone that worked in a school, I used to hear and see the ways that not just parents, but teachers would talk. Like, I mean, there is some kids that immediately come up in my brain, like first grade, taller, bigger than I am as the teacher. And I'm like, you know what I mean? The kid comes up to give me a hug and I'm like falling over. And it's sad because they're 7 years old and they weigh as much as I do as a 24-year-old adult. But it's like, oh, why did mom pack that as your snack today? And it's like, why would you say that? They don't understand. It's at that point, it's out of their control.
Yeah.
And I think the narrative as kids tend to get older is from their parents, usually not positive. And I think there's a way to go about it. Like, I don't think you need to make it a point of, oh, why are you eating that? Or maybe you shouldn't be eating that. Just get rid of it.
Well, I think like anything, it stems from the top down. Mm-hmm. So the kids aren't going to the grocery store and buying their own groceries.
Exactly.
So I also think we as a society aren't educated properly. Mm-hmm. I think we're told certain things, but it's not always the truth. For example, this diet's good.
Yep.
This pill, this injectable is great for us. Mm-hmm. We should do this because I think that's the easy way. Hang on. I'm going to go pack a fruit roll up in there. I'm going to pack goldfish in there. Number one, because it's cheap, right? And most people can't afford to eat healthy. Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest problem in society is that organic food, healthier food is more expensive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why?
Beats the shit out of me. No one's ever answered that for me.
But we don't have answers for that because I think it's bullshit. And I think from a political standpoint, I think in some capacity there is this weakness. I think as a society, we might now be a weaker society. Mm-hmm. We're not willing to stand up for ourselves or, I'm tippy-toeing this line that I don't want to talk about. Mm-hmm. Because I have a very, very strong opinion on it, but I think the education system, even schools' lunches.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's cheap. It's the worst possible foods that we can put in these kids' bodies, but then expect these fucking kids to sit there and pay attention for 6 hours after they're basically drugged with terrible foods.
Mm-hmm. So it's funny that you mentioned that because I had a conversation with a client a couple weeks ago about his nutrition, younger gentleman. And the thing is that when he explained his day to me, the amount of nutrients that he was intaking couldn't sustain an hour of the video game play that he was doing, let alone trying to function his entire body and then come in here.
But think about what even the calories that he's consuming. I don't give a shit what the number is.
Yeah.
What quality calories?
Yeah, and it's like,
are they getting fruits and
portions
vegetables?
are this big.
Processed foods. I mean, like Steakums and like
Hot
the pizzas.
Pockets.
Think about that. It's not. we're not posturing kids to have a chance.
No.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we preach activity, we preach balance with foods and everything, but you know, now we're giving them the ability. Hey, you don't have to participate in gym class. You just walk today. No way. No way. That's not happening when I'm in school.
No.
And I'm not saying like we're old. That's 20-something years ago.
Yeah.
Why do we have this shift? These kids have zero chance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we're trying to teach them the healthy ways, geez, what are they going to do when they go to college? And it's not forced upon them.
Yeah.
You know, what are they going to do when they get in the real world and they're working 8 to 10, 12 hours a day? They're so mentally drained. They're taxed. They're stressed. You know, I got to pay for my apartment, my car. A bag of pretzels or,
Yeah.
you know, pizza, have it delivered. So I get kind of amped up just like you do about this, that they don't have a chance. And I think we need to figure something out.
It comes
for
down,
them.
yeah, and it comes down to the parents, like 100%. Like I'm not going to argue. Like I was going through my phone the other day, and I watched where Logan had sorry kid, he had a fat face. You know, he was all fat, chipmunk chic. You know, little dude. And I can remember one day he asked me why he was fat. I'm like, bro, you're 10. Why are you asking this question? And this is what is on a 10-year-old kid's mind, because he would see other kids in his class who were thinner than him. And I had to explain from a parent perspective that first off, you're on a buttload of medications for your stuff. So that messes with your body. But then also you have to play with your genetics. Like, yes, you're going to have like a testosterone shot and you're going to get bigger. But why is my 10-year-old kid comparing himself to others? And it comes back to, like, I pulled something up on the screen. Do you know what the average age starting for body dysmorphia is? 5.
That's crazy.
12 to 13 is when it onsets, but it can start as early as 5 years old. How the hell is that even a thing? Like,
How do you know? Like, what is your experience? Like, what do you think the answer is? I mean, you've dealt with the youth, because I think this problem stems from like modeling.
Yep.
You know, and I'm not calling out parents and saying you guys are terrible parents. I'm just saying it's like, we're not informed.
Yeah,
We're not
I agree.
educated the most, you know, the correct way. And what you're told 20 days later is the worst thing for you.
Yep.
Don't drink water out of a bottle because it's going to cause you cancer.
Yep.
Don't drink water out of your tap because it's got fluoride in it. Right?
Well, I think every generation is getting more and more addicted to the things that we do eat every day. Like when I grew up, there wasn't soda in the house. There was like, we didn't even, I always joke that my mom was like, in a good way, like the almond mom. Like it was like, if I wanted a dessert, it was like, here's some chocolate chips that I have in case I need to bake in 3 months. You know what I mean? Like we would go out to dinner. I had to ask permission. Hey, can I order a soda as a kid? Because it wasn't just a right of like, oh yeah, we're going to go to, like, I never had McDonald's. That was like a special occasion as a child for me. And now I see it all the time. I remember having a conversation with a parent and actually getting yelled at, like almost spit in my face, because I said, I have a classroom rule. I don't want my students eating candy at 9 o'clock in the morning. And it looks like this girl's having a 5-course meal at 9 o'clock because there's 3 Musketeers and goldfish and brownies and cupcakes, like all of these things that I'm like, do you realize that this is going to have an effect on your child to the point where they're not going to be able to learn, and our snack is at 9 a.m. So then I have to go the whole rest of the day with your kid jacked up on sugar. You know what I mean?
But then there's that huge crash after that sugar wears off.
100%. And how do you expect them to focus or do anything when they don't even have the sustained energy? Our breakfast, we got free breakfast. Any child could grab a free breakfast at the door, whether they ate at home or not. And I'm looking at the breakfast. It's cinnamon, I remember it, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Trix, Pop-Tarts, and they would have these little tiny like pancake things, chocolate milk. Like that was the breakfast.
So
I'm like,
sugar,
oh,
sugar,
great.
sugar, and corn.
Dairy.
Yes.
Yeah, and dairy.
And my kids ate their breakfast. They come in at 8:20. We didn't have lunch until 12. The other first grade didn't eat lunch till 12:30. So say snacks at 9. They're going several hours before I would get to like 11 o'clock. And every single day, my students were like, I'm hungry. And I'm like, I know we're almost there, but like there's not much. It's out of my control.
You're combating learning with what their brain is telling them that they're hungry because they're, I wouldn't say malnourished, but the quality of calories that they're not getting.
Yeah.
Pause. I'll go malnourished. Like, okay,
well, malnourished in the spectrum that's not quality
it's garbage.
food. Yeah,
It's processed garbage. That's
Wait.
still Sorry, yeah.
No, go ahead. I'll wait till
Well,
you're
well,
done.
no. What I was gonna say is it's like you talk about these places that have food deserts, and you talk about like you mentioned school lunches, the amount of sugar that is poured into it in order to make a budget. That's what another part, the
Sure.
political part is it has to come down to a budget and making your money stretch as long as you can. But the thing that really gets me about that is you're putting a dollar value on the health of children, and I'm gonna take your side on this one. Then you bitch at the teacher that your kid isn't higher up and they're not learning. And why am I sending my kid here? Well, your kid is jacked up on Mountain Dew and is can't fucking function mentally.
I got. I'll go back. I'm an athlete. You're an athlete, right? You know what sports are. $10 million football field, but we can't give kids lunches
Yep. Well,
or quality lunches.
I was going to say, like here, we obviously use fast metabolism. And
Sure.
the whole purpose of that is that when you sit down to eat a meal, you're not starving because then you're going to overeat or binge eat or eat too fast, whatever. And that's basically what we're structuring these kids to do by saying, oh, no, you can't just like whip out a snack. I mean, the older you get, the more I think that's allowed. But I know elementary school is very structured. You can't just take out an apple. I mean, truthfully, I would do that at times, especially if it was a kid I knew wasn't going to get food when they would go home.
Yeah.
Sure, take a bag of pretzels or whatever because they need it. But I think that's another issue that we have too, especially in that like 9 to 5 setting. Maybe you have a ton of meetings back to back to back. You don't get a chance to eat. You finally sit down to eat your lunch at 2 o'clock, and that's your first meal of the day. You're shoveling food down your throat. And then all of a sudden you look down and you just consumed 3,000 calories. I used to do it in high school.
Sure.
I would have my breakfast, go to school, after sometimes a lift in the morning, and then I would get to lunch at 12 o'clock. I would eat the school lunch and I would eat the lunch that my dad packed me. Because it's the only way I would eat school lunch and still be hungry after.
Yeah. I mean, and also like you brought it up, like both of you were athletes in high school. It's like the caloric intake that you need to survive. And it's like, were you getting that off of school lunches when you were in?
I mean, I was privileged. My parents owned a restaurant. My mom made my lunches every single day, and that was good enough for me. But I just remember going to lunch and then trying to go sit into a class afterwards. Like your attention span wasn't there. And I think we're kind of like segueing off the scale topic though. But I think like peeling it back to the main focus of like this all stems from earlier times, and I think we need to fix those. And not having relationships with a number. But what would you say to people that struggle with that? What was the first step? Because we got 5 minutes. Like, what's the first step to either get rid of the scale completely or have more of a positive impact in your life rather than a negative?
I think you first have to take a look at your lifestyle choices. If you are someone that's not active, I mean, why even weigh yourself at that point? Because you know it's not going to change. So I think put it away, like table the scale for a while, make some better life choices, it doesn't need to be like you said, like balls to the wall 7 days a week, going and weightlifting or running a marathon. Maybe it's just going outside and walking 30 minutes a day or trying to get 10,000 steps and doing something that is leading you towards a healthier lifestyle. And then circle back. We talk about SMART goals.
Yep.
So what is it? It's
Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive.
yeah, there you go. Find some SMART goals.
But give yourself a chance.
Yeah. My thing would be give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
You didn't get to your point on the scale overnight. It's not going to change overnight. And not only that, but if you've been stagnant for X amount of time, it's going to take a little bit to get your body moving. Give yourself the grace to be like, well, I'm not where I want to be, but at least I'm giving it a start. At least you're not where you were last week, not doing it.
I think the time, I would say patience. I think a lot of us will spend 12 years in high school and we'll spend 4 to 6 years for college to have this dream job. We won't invest 4 weeks into ourselves.
Yeah.
Think about that. We are so,
For our health?
we're so short-minded. The fact that I can invest all my time, energy, effort in financial, depression to go to school to get this ideal job, but we won't do it for 12 weeks.
Yeah.
How drastically would your life change if you made 3 different decisions every single day that would benefit you in 12 weeks? That's 3 months. Where would you be? How would you look? How would you feel? How would you manage your kids? What more productive could you be at your job? So that's my big challenge. I'll send it out to everybody. Make 3 changes that you want to hit in the next, let's call it 4 weeks,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? If you can, comment on here the 3 changes that you would make. Maybe that's putting the phone down. Maybe that's going to bed a little bit earlier. Maybe that's reading a book.
Yep.
Also, everybody that's in this challenge and you guys are watching, think about all the changes and points that you're getting for some of this stuff. You're getting points for attendance.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting points to go outside for walks. You're getting points to be around people that are like-minded like you.
Mm-hmm.
You get points to read books. What else? You get points if you get successful and you are losing weight.
Yep.
I think those are all habits and changes that will go over a longer period of time rather than just 6 weeks.
Yeah.
For sure.
For show. Can you say it like that?
No.
Try it.
Just once.
Just once.
For sure.
For show. For show.
She's like she's like the female version of the white girl Kevin Hart. Let's go. Dan, close the show out.
All right.
On that note,
On that. For show. For show. For show. All right.
5-0 goes west, but she's for show.
Oh.
All right.
You
I'm
good?
gonna leave now.
Okay. She's just going to shrink. Thank you for tuning in this morning. As always, you can like, share, and comment below. Share the shit out of this episode. Someone's going to find some value in this one. This one was a hot one. Like us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, the Gym 518. Follow us on all of our own individual pages and look for more content coming soon. Keep it up for our 6-week challenge. Participants, you guys are killing it. Challenge number 1 begins in approximately
16 minutes.
16 minutes. For Coach Ryan, Coach KC, this is Coach Dan. Have yourselves a great weekend. Do cool stuff this weekend. And everybody, peace out. For sure. For sure.
Never gonna hear the end of that one.
No way.